There is no single way to become a primal warrior in Faerun. The rage that defines these fighters rises from different soils in different corners of the world, shaped by the landscape that demands it, and the tradition that names it, and the people who need it. Three paths are traced here, three worlds of origin, three sets of milestones, three roads from childhood in a harsh place to the kind of legendary reputation that makes scribes reach for their quills and city dwellers lower their voices. The first is the path of the Uthgardt, children of the savage north, who measure themselves by the beast their god conquered. The second is the path of the Regedmen, glacier children of Icewind Dale, who answer to kings and follow the reindeer herds through the worst winters the world can produce. The third is the path of the Rashemen, warriors of the land of Berserkers, whose fury is organized, named, and directed by a tradition more sophisticated than anything the wider world expects from people it dismisses as savages. None of these paths is easy. All of them lead eventually to the kind of warrior that Faerun remembers. But they begin the same way all things begin, with birth into a world that does not care whether you are ready for it. Part 1. The Red Tiger. You are born in a moving camp. That is the first fact of your existence. The Red Tiger tribe does not stay in one place long enough for birth to mean what it means in a city, where the midwife knows the house and the house has walls. Your mother gives birth in a tent of stretched hide, with the smell of pine resin and wood smoke in the air, and the sound of the wind working at the canvas overhead. The shaman is there, or a woman who knows the necessary prayers, and the tribe moves again 2 days later. You travel in arms for the first months, bundled against your mother's chest, and the landscape of the savage frontier scrolls past your unfocused eyes like a map you will spend the rest of your life learning to read. The Red Tigers range across the northern Silver Marches, and the land they claim is not gentle. The Moonlands, the eastern reaches toward the Rauvin, the territory between the permanent settlements and the high spine of the world where civilization stops and the old wild begins in earnest. There are orcs in those hills, there are giants in the mountains, there are winters that kill animals too weak to survive them, and the tribe watches what dies and draws conclusions about its own fitness. You learn to walk among people who can all outrun you. You learn to fall and get up again because the alternative is being left behind, and the tribe does not slow for weakness. Before you are old enough to hold a weapon, you are already carrying things: water, kindling, the smaller tools that an adult's hands are too busy to manage. The tribe does not coddle its children, it employs them. The language you speak is Bothei, a dialect of Iliscan that exists only as sound. No one in the Red Tiger tribe reads or writes because writing is a thing of the settled world and you are not settled. What you have instead of letters is memory. The lineage chants that trace your ancestry back through generations of named warriors, the hunting songs that encode the behavioral patterns of elk and boar, and the things that hunt them, the shaman's prayers that must be learned exactly right, because an imprecise prayer is an insult to the ancestor being invoked. You learn all of this by ear, and the learning is not gentle either. You are corrected sharply when you err. The oral tradition of the Uthgardt has survived 1,000 years because people take it seriously. The Red Tiger's totem is the snow cat, the great hunting cat of the savage frontier, and this shapes how your tribe understands itself. Snowcats hunt alone and in pairs. They are patient, territorial, and absolutely lethal at close quarters. The Red Tiger warriors admire these qualities and cultivate them. Where another tribe might value the collective charge, the Red Tigers value the stalk, the wait, the single decisive moment of violence after an approach so careful the prey never knew it was being hunted. You learn this early, playing games in camp that are really tracking practice, that really patience practice, really the cultivation of the specific quality of attention that your tradition demands. Your first serious test comes at the age of somewhere between 10 and 12, when you are old enough to participate in a hunting party as a subordinate. You carry things, you learn where to stand, you watch what the experienced hunters do, and you ask no questions during the hunt itself, because noise is the enemy. You learn to read the ground for tracks, to read the sky for weather, to read the behavior of animals for what it means about what lies ahead. The Savage Frontier is a book written in a language that only hunters can read, and you are learning its alphabet. Your relationship with the shaman begins here too. The Red Tiger Shaman is a male figure of substantial spiritual authority, one of the few formal roles in the tribe that carries more weight than the chieftains. He intercedes between the living and the dead, between the tribe and its totem spirit, between the world you can see and the world behind it. He will not teach you his specific arts, which are reserved for the shamanic calling, but he will watch you. He will notice whether you have something he has seen before in the warriors who became more than warriors. He will not say anything about this for years. The rune meet comes at the autumn equinox. Once a year, the Red Tigers travel from their own ancestral mound at one stone to Bearuna's Well, the holiest of the Uthgardt ancestral mounds and the site where all tribes gather. The ancestral mound is a great earthwork shaped in the form of the tribe's totem, surrounded by cairn rings where the honored dead are interred. The rune meet is everything at once: a council of chieftains, a market, a ceremony, a gathering of people who spend the rest of the year separated by the demands of nomadic life. Marriage arrangements are made, disputes are settled, the shaman conducts initiations, and there is the rune hunt. This is the rite by which youth becomes warrior. At the rune meet, those who have reached the threshold age and believe themselves ready declare for the rune hunt, and they go out to face the tribe's ritual enemies. For most Uthgardt tribes, including the Red Tigers, this means orcs. The spine of the world is full of them, ranging out of the mountains in organized bands that have raided Uthgardt camps for generations. The rune hunt is not symbolic. The orcs you are sent to face are genuinely dangerous, and they will kill you if they can. The tribe needs warriors. The rune hunt produces them by testing the candidates against something that actually fights back. When you return, the shaman conducts the Telhut, the initiation ceremony. There is a specific form to this. There are words said over you. Your deeds in the rune hunt are recited. You are marked formally as a member of the tribe in its full standing. Before this moment, you were a child who belonged to the tribe by birth. After it, you are a warrior who belongs to the tribe by deed. The distinction matters. The lineage chants will remember you from this point forward. Now begins the middle period, the years in which a Red Tiger warrior builds reputation through the accumulation of honorable violence. The tribe raids other groups, defends its territory against encroachment, hunts dangerous game, and occasionally makes contact with the people of the Silver March's settled communities. Interactions that are more complex than simple hostility, involving trade and tribute and the complicated negotiations of a people who need things the South produces, but resent needing them. Your role in these activities expands as your ability proves itself. You begin as a subordinate in raiding and hunting parties, learning the practical arts of ambush and tactical violence from warriors who have been doing it for 20 years. You graduate from carrying the equipment to making decisions about it, from following orders to giving them, from surviving encounters to shaping their outcomes. The first individual test of genuine consequence is the solo hunt. This is not formalized as a ceremony, but it is recognized as a milestone when it happens. The first time you go out alone after something worth hunting and come back with it. Not a rabbit or a bird. Something that could have killed you. A boar. A dire wolf. The kind of creature whose death demonstrates that you can function without support. That the rage and the capability do not require a group to activate. When you return with the carcass, the tribe notices. The shaman notices. Nothing is said formally, but the way people look at you has changed. Over the following years, the territory of your reputation expands. You earn kills against the things that genuinely threaten the tribe. Giant raiding parties descending from the high spine, orc warbands large enough to threaten the camp itself, the occasional troll or other monstrous creature that strays into Red Tiger hunting grounds and needs to be driven out. Each of these encounters is a story, and stories are the Uthgard's currency. The lineage chants are full of warriors who perform specific deeds in specific places, and those deeds are still being recited 200 years later. You begin to accumulate material for your own recitation. The moment that lifts you from respected warrior to something greater is different for every warrior, but it tends to share a quality. It is the moment when the thing you face is something the rest of the tribe could not have handled without you. A giant that weighed into the camp and you went to meet it alone while others scattered. A wyvern that had been taking livestock from 3 tribes and you tracked to its lair in the high rocks and killed there. The specific creature matters less than the specific quality of what you did, which is that you chose to stand between the threat and the people who needed someone to stand there, and the threat is the one that did not walk away. After this, your status within the tribe changes in ways that are practical rather than ceremonial. The chieftain consults you. Warriors come to you before raids for advice they used to seek from older hands. Younger members of the tribe watch you with the same careful attention you once directed at the experienced hunters, learning the same way you learned, by observation and by carrying things. The cycle has completed one turn. But the red tiger is not the whole of the savage frontier, and the shaman who has been watching you since before the rune hunt now speaks to you for the first time about the world beyond the tribe's territory. The stories the lineage chants preserve are not all local. The greatest Uthgardt warriors in the tradition's history ranged far. They went to places no red tiger had been before and came back with deeds that the chants still carry. The shaman is not telling you to leave. He is telling you the tradition honors those who do. The decision to leave the tribe is not exile and not abandonment. It is a different kind of service. The warrior who ranges beyond the tribe's territory and returns bearing deeds that the tribe could not have produced by staying put. You will be gone for seasons, possibly years. You will find your way through the silver marches, through the cities that unsettle you with their walls and their crowds, through landscapes that are not the savage frontier and yet contain their own versions of the dangers you were trained to meet. You will find people who need the specific thing you are. This is where the wider world begins for the Red Tiger Warrior, not as a choice to abandon what you are, but as a choice to find out how much of it translates. You discover that more translates than you expected. The patience, the tracking instinct, the specific quality of attention that your tradition cultivated for hunting and raiding works equally well for navigating political situations in cities where every courtier is also a kind of hunter. The ability to read landscape for threat applies to interiors as well as exteriors. The rage, when it comes, continues to come when it is needed and to be sufficient for the thing requiring it. You are not diminished by the distance from the savage frontier. If anything, the contrast clarifies what you are. You find companions eventually because the world presents problems that require more than one person to solve, and the problems that require more than one person are often the ones that become the stories worth telling. A dungeon beneath a ruin that the settled folk of the Silver Marches are too afraid to enter. A dragon that has taken up residence in the mountain passes that the tribe uses for its seasonal migrations, and that no single warrior is sufficient to dislodge. A threat so large and so dangerous that it requires something the tribe's tradition calls heroic in the oldest sense of the word. The warrior who faces the thing that exists on a scale beyond the ordinary. Dragon slaying, when it happens, is the end of a long process, rather than a sudden event. The dragon is not the first impossible thing you have faced. It is the accumulated result of every encounter that pushed you past what you thought you could survive. Every moment of calling on the rage in a situation where the rage alone was barely enough. Every companion who covered your flank in an impossible situation, and every lesson learned in the savage frontier about patience and approach, and the single decisive moment. The dragon is larger than anything the rune hunt prepared you for. It is not larger than everything the tradition prepared you for. When you return to the Red Tigers, you return changed and unchanged. The savage frontier still smells like pine resin and wood smoke. The lineage chants still require precision, the shaman still watches the younger warriors with the same careful attention he directed at you a decade ago. What has changed is the story you carry, which is now long enough and specific enough and unusual enough to join the chants themselves. That is the Red Tiger's highest measure, not the rank you hold or the wealth you carry, but the story the tribe will still be telling when you are in the cairn ring and your grandchildren are preparing for their rune hunts. Part 2, the Tribe of the Elk. You are born into the sound of wind and reindeer. Not a metaphor. The tribe of the elk follows the reindeer herds across the frozen tundra of Icewind Dale, and the sound of hundreds of reindeer moving is a constant background to everything that happens in camp. It is the sound of the tribe's survival, which makes it also the sound of home. Icewind Dale is a place that exists at the edge of what a human body can endure. North of the spine of the world, between the Righed Glacier and the Sea of Moving Ice, it produces winters that kill, summers that are merely cold and permanent conditions of scarcity that make every resource a calculation. The tribe of the elk has survived here for generations, not because the Dale is generous, but because the tribe is extremely good at not dying. You are born into this competence and expected to acquire it. The elk tribe is the largest and most influential of the Regedman peoples, and relatively more tolerant of outsiders than the other Reged tribes, though this tolerance has limits, and those limits are enforced. Your tribe views the people of 10 towns, the settled communities to which some former tribespeople have fled over the decades, as the tame folk, meaning people who have chosen a lesser version of life in exchange for warmth and a roof. The contempt is not absolute. There is trade. There is occasional cooperation when a threat is large enough to require it. But the underlying assessment does not waver. The tundra makes people in ways that walls cannot. And anyone who has chosen walls has given up something real. Your childhood is a curriculum with no classroom. You are taught the tundra by living in it. The reindeer are your first lesson, their behavior, their migration patterns, the signs that indicate whether a herd is healthy or stressed, the specific sounds that mean different things, and the ability to interpret them at a distance. A child who grows up in the elk tribe knows more about reindeer by age 8 than any naturalist from Waterdeep will know in a lifetime of study. You are also taught cold, which is both a physical reality and a form of instruction. Cold teaches patience. Cold teaches the discipline of not wasting heat on unnecessary movement. Cold teaches the particular kind of hardness that the Regedmen pride themselves on, which is not harshness, but efficiency, the elimination of everything that does not serve survival and the conservation of everything that does. The children who are coddled do not survive Icewind Dale's winters. The tribe understands this and acts accordingly, though it is not cruel. It simply does not protect its children from the training that the Dale itself provides. The king of the tribe of the elk is chosen by the clan chieftains from among themselves, and that king leads for life. The king is expected to be the tribe's greatest warrior, greatest hunter, and most reliable decision maker. This is not a position that hereditary succession fills automatically. When the previous king dies, the chieftains gather and make a choice based on demonstrated capability, and disputes about that choice are settled through trials of non-lethal combat. The system produces effective kings because the alternative is a king who cannot hold the position, which in a tribe that faces the pressures the elk faces, means a tribe that does not survive the next bad winter. You understand growing up that this is the direction your ambition must point if it points anywhere. The tribe has one summit, and that summit is the warrior who can lead. Everything else is the preparation for that possibility, whether or not you ever reach it. Your first formal test of warrior status comes not through ceremony as elaborate as the Uthgardt rune hunt, but through the cumulative weight of demonstrated performance. The Regedmen do not have a single formalized rite that marks the transition from child to adult warrior. What they have is a body of increasingly difficult tasks assigned to increasingly capable young people, and the moment at which the tribe's experienced warriors begin treating you as one of them rather than as a promising prospect is the moment you have crossed the threshold. This tends to happen around the first winter hunt, in which you take a genuinely significant role, not carrying equipment, not watching from a distance while the adults make decisions. The first time you're positioned at the front of a reindeer drive, or assigned the killing position in an ambush on a competing predator, or trusted with a specific task during a raid that would fail if you fail it, that is the first recognition. You notice it in the way the older warriors talk to you afterward, which changes from instruction to evaluation to eventually something closer to peer conversation. The Reged shaman serves an advisory function to the king and clan chieftains, and also manages the tribe's relationship with Tempest, the god of war and battle, who is widely venerated among the Regedmen. The shaman is not the spiritual authority that the Uthgardt shaman is, but neither is the role insignificant. When the tribe faces a decision that touches on the spirit world, whether to take a given path, whether an omen should be followed, the shaman is consulted. Whether you develop a relationship with the shaman depends in part on what the shaman notices about you, which in turn depends on what you show in the situations that call for something beyond ordinary warrior performance. The first significant marker of unusual capability is survival of an encounter that should have ended you. Icewind Dale is full of these opportunities. Yeti attacks in the high passes, goblinoid raiding parties armed with crude but effective weapons, the occasional troll that wanders down from the glacier, remorhas that emerge from the deep ice in seasons of unusual cold. The tribe of the Elk encounters all of these regularly. Warriors die in these encounters. The ones who survive in circumstances that should have killed them begin to be regarded differently. This is not mysticism. The Regedmen are practical people who assess what they observe. What they observe in a warrior who has survived 3 situations that ended other warriors is that this person has something the others did not. Whether that something is skill, fury, luck, or the favor of Tempest, the observation is the same. This person is exceptional, and the tribe's future depends on exceptional people. Your reputation expands in stages. The first stage is recognized survival. The second is demonstrated leadership, the capacity to direct other warriors in a crisis situation and have them follow, which is a different kind of proof than personal toughness. The third, which not every warrior reaches, is the deed that the tribe will remember specifically and attribute to you alone. Not the battle where you fought well among others, but the thing you did that no one else would have done or could have done that produced an outcome the tribe needed and would not have had without you. The specific shape of this deed varies. For some elk warriors, it is the defeat of a rival tribe's king in single combat, which resolves a territorial dispute that had been costing both tribes winter hunting grounds. For others, it is the tracking and killing of a monster that had been taking children from the camp. For others still, it is a feat of endurance that reaches into legend. The warrior who ran for 3 days through a blizzard to carry a warning that saved the camp, or who held a position alone long enough for the rest of the tribe to reach safety. Whatever form it takes, this deed is what lifts you from excellent warrior to the category that the tribe's stories treat differently. The king notices, the clan chieftains notice. When you speak in council now, the room changes. The wider world calls to the elk warrior differently than it calls to the red tiger. The red tiger tradition has a concept of ranging beyond the tribe's territory as a form of service. The Regedmen have something more specific. The encounters with Ten Towns and with the travelers who pass through Icewind Dale on their way to somewhere else, which create windows into a world that extends beyond the glacier and the tundra. These windows are not always comfortable, but they are real. The moment that most often sends an elk warrior south is the awareness that the thing threatening the tribe cannot be resolved by the tribe alone. A dragon that has established a lair in the mountain passes and is growing bolder. A threat from outside Icewind Dale entirely, moving through the dale as if the tribe did not exist. A problem that requires resources or capabilities or knowledge that the tribe does not possess, and that can only be acquired by going somewhere the tribe has not been. The warrior who goes is not always welcomed back easily. The tribe is suspicious of change, and the South is a place where tribal warriors have disappeared before, absorbed by a world that offers things the tundra does not. But the warrior who goes and returns, who brings back something the tribe needed, who demonstrates that the ranging was service rather than desertion, earns a specific and valuable kind of trust. The journeys south introduce you to everything. Cities where you are too large for the furniture, roads that feel like insults to anyone who knows how to navigate actual terrain, the complex social webs of settled communities where every interaction requires reading people the way you were taught to read landscape. You adapt because adaptation is something the Dale trained into you at a cellular level. You do not become Southern. You become someone who can move through Vu through the South without being consumed by it. The dragon, when you face it, may not be an Icewind Dale at all. The wandering that begins as service to the elk tribe may take you far enough from the glacier that you are operating in someone else's crisis, brought in by reputation or circumstance to deal with a problem that requires exactly the specific combination of capabilities you have been accumulating since childhood. The Regedman warrior who becomes legendary tends to become legendary outside of Icewind Dale, in places where the tundra has trained them for conditions that Southerners cannot handle. You return to the tribe of the elk eventually, or you send word or the stories reach the tribe before you do. When the king dies and the clan chieftains gather, your name will be spoken. What happens next depends on who else is speaking names and what deeds are arrayed against yours. But the fact that your name is spoken at all in a council that decides who leads the children of the glacier means that the tribe has already answered the question of whether the ranging was worth it. It was. Part 3, the Snow Tiger Lodge of Rashemen. You are born into a nation that has been at war for as long as anyone can remember. Not war in the way the civilized South understands it, with sieges and treaties and the formal exchange of prisoners. War in the way Rashemen understands it, a permanent state of vigilance against the Red Wizards of Thay to the south, who have attempted to conquer the land of Berserkers more than 20 times and failed every single time, and who will attempt it again, and who are always preparing to attempt it. You grow up knowing that the Gorge of Gauros is the line between your world and the one that wants to erase it, and that the Berserkers who hold that line are the reason you are alive to know it. Rashemen is a rugged, cold, spirit-infused land in the unapproachable east of the Great Dale, north of Thay, and home to a culture that the outside world tends to misunderstand. The misunderstanding goes like this. Rashemen is a nation of backwards warriors led by witch women who keep their faces hidden and control their men through fear. The reality is considerably more sophisticated. The Witchlaran, the masked witches who truly govern Rashemen, are among the most powerful spellcasters on the continent, operating a system of government that has kept a small nation free against a neighbor of vastly greater resources for centuries. The Berserkers who fight alongside them are not a blunt instrument wielded by the witches. They are partners in a tradition that both groups understand and that neither group could maintain without the other. You understand this from childhood. Everyone in Rashemen understands it. You are not born into a specific lodge. Lodge membership is something you earn. What you are born into is the culture that produces lodge members, a people whose baseline assumption is that every capable person will be able to fight, whose boys train for war from the age at which they can hold a practice weapon, whose girls are assessed for magical aptitude and directed toward the Witchlaran if they have it, or toward the same martial culture if they do not. Rashemen does not waste people. A nation that has been defending itself for as long as this one has cannot afford to. Your early training is not the kind that produces monsters. It is the kind that produces useful warriors, which requires discipline and judgment alongside ferocity. The village has its Fang, its local unit of berserkers drawn from the nearest lodge, and the Fang's members watch the village's children the way a master craftsperson watches apprentices. They are not looking for the biggest or the most aggressive. They are looking for the ones who combine capability with the specific quality of commitment that the tradition demands, which is commitment to the community rather than commitment to personal glory. The Dajema comes at the age of somewhere between 15 and 20, when the young Rashemi are considered ready for it. This is the coming-of-age journey, the formal departure from home to learn about the world beyond Rashemen's borders before returning to take up an adult role. The Dajema applies to both sexes. It is not a warrior-specific tradition, but it shapes warriors in specific ways, because a berserker who has seen nothing of the world beyond the Rashemi Plateau is a narrower instrument than one who has spent a year in foreign lands watching how other peoples organize their violence. You travel during the Dajema. You go wherever the journey takes you, south through Thesk, west into the Great Dale, sometimes as far as the Sword Coast or the Anarok or places further still. You observe. You fight when fighting is unavoidable and sometimes when it is not, because the Dajema is also about testing what you have against what the world presents. You learn languages, or at least the rudiments of them. You eat unfamiliar food. You watch how people who do not have Rashemen's tradition of organized martial fury approach problems that require force. You come back. The Dajema is not emigration. The bond to Rashemen is not suspended during the journey. It is stretched, and then it contracts again when you return, pulling you back with the accumulated weight of everything you now know about why leaving was worth it. The Berserkers who complete the Dajema and return are better at what they do for having seen what the alternatives look like. Lodge assessment happens after the Dajema or during it, depending on who you encounter. The lodges maintain awareness of promising candidates through the village fangs and through the informal network of lodge members who encounter Rashemi travelers abroad. If you have demonstrated the capacity for the battle fury during the Dajema, and the kind of journey the Dajema involves will create opportunities to demonstrate it, the lodge has likely already noticed you before you return. The Snow Tiger Lodge, whose warriors you aspire to join, is one of the most respected in Rashemen. The Snow Tiger of the Northern Reaches is a patient, lethal, precisely calculating creature, and the lodge takes these qualities as its ideal. Snow Tiger berserkers are not brawlers. They are strategic, they are disciplined even in fury, and they have a reputation for taking on the most technically demanding assignments, rather than the ones that require only numbers and ferocity. The lodge's standards are accordingly exacting. The entry examination is not a single test. It is an extended assessment during which the lodge's senior members observe you in situations they have arranged and situations that arise naturally, looking for the specific combination of qualities that defines a Snow Tiger warrior. The fury that activates completely when it is needed, the discipline that contains it when it is not, and the judgment that knows the difference. Warriors who have all the fury and none of the discipline are declined. Warriors who have the discipline but whose fury is shallow or unreliable are declined. The lodge is not looking for the most dangerous candidate, it is looking for the most useful one. When you are accepted into a specific fang, the basic unit of 10 to 50 berserkers that operates under lodge authority. This fang is your immediate community within the lodge and the context in which your abilities are developed and deployed. The fang trains together, fights together, and is responsible for specific territory or specific types of assignment that the lodge coordinates. You are the newest member, and you are treated accordingly, which in the Snow Tiger tradition means being given the least glamorous tasks first and observed carefully in how you handle them. The hierarchy of Fang membership is practical rather than ceremonial. You move up by demonstrating consistently superior performance in the tasks the Fang is assigned, not by winning internal competitions or accumulating tokens of individual achievement. The Snow Tiger Lodge is skeptical of individual glory in a way that distinguishes it from some of the other lodges. What it values is collective effectiveness, and the warrior who makes the Fang more effective than it was before them is more valued than the warrior who has the most impressive personal kills. Your first Thaion engagement will come because they always come. Thay invades Rashemen on a schedule that feels almost regular to those who have been watching it long enough. A few decades of relative quiet, while the Red Wizards consolidate resources and develop a strategy, then a push at the Gorge of Goros with whatever combination of undead, conjured creatures, and conscript soldiers the current plan requires. The Berserkers meet them in the Gorge with the fury and knowledge of terrain that has defeated 20 previous attempts, and the Thions learn again what the Rashemi already know. Your role in this first major engagement is not the heroic one. You fight in the Fang, in the formation, doing what you have been trained to do. You survive, which is not given. You perform well enough that the Fang's leader notices and says something specific about your performance afterward, which is the Snow Tiger Lodge's version of recognition. You receive your first tattoo, the marking that begins the record of your deeds on your skin in the tradition that the Lodge maintains. Over the following years, the complexity of what you are assigned increases. You are given the hard approaches. You are positioned where the fighting will be most difficult. You are sent ahead of the main force into places where being wrong about what lies ahead has immediate and permanent consequences. This is the Snow Tiger Lodge's equivalent of promotion, not a title, but a type of assignment. The relationship with the Witchlaren develops through these years in ways that are not adversarial and not simple. The witches are the nation's true governing power. The berserkers are the nation's fighting arm. The relationship between the two is a partnership with a specific dynamic. The witches direct the nation's strategy, and the berserkers execute the fighting parts of it, and the berserkers are expected to follow the witches' guidance without being owned by them. The lodge maintains its independence within this arrangement, which requires the lodge's members to understand both the value of the alliance and its limits. A Snow Tiger berserker who has served the Fang for 10 years and survived what those years bring is a different creature from the candidate who was assessed at entry. The fury is deeper. The discipline is more refined. The judgment has been tested in situations that the assessment process could only simulate. You are no longer the newest member of the Fang. You are likely among the most experienced. The moment that defines a Snow Tiger warrior as legendary within the Lodge tends to happen in exactly the situation the Lodge's tradition was built to handle. The assignment that no one else can complete because it requires both the fury and the discipline, the capacity to enter the battle state completely, and the capacity to direct it toward a specific outcome rather than simply releasing it. A Thion's summoner who has retreated behind lines of undead to cast from safety, requiring someone who can fight through the undead and reach the summoner before the next wave arrives. A hostage situation in a cave network where the wrong movement collapses the negotiation, and only someone who can be both terrifying and completely controlled is of any use. These deeds accumulate. The tattoos extend. The Fang's other members have served alongside you long enough to know what you are capable of, which means they know it without needing to be told. And they position themselves relative to you in combat with the confidence of people who have seen the evidence enough times to trust it completely. The wider world comes to the Snow Tiger Lodge's attention when the threats it faces are not internal to Rashemen. The Red Wizards are not the only dangerous power in the East, and the Lodge occasionally sends members on assignments that take them far beyond the Gorge of Garros, into territories where Rashemen has interests or where the specific capability of a Snow Tiger Berserker is required for reasons that the Lodge has been asked to provide. These assignments are how the wider world learns what you are. Reputation outside Rashemen is built differently than reputation within it. Within the Lodge, you are known by the accumulated specifics of your performance, the particular engagements, the particular decisions, the particular ways you handled situations that had no good answer. Outside Rashemen, you are known by the stories that reach people who do not have access to those specifics. The stories simplify, the stories sometimes exaggerate, the stories often focus on the dramatic moment rather than the careful work that made the dramatic moment possible. This is fine. The stories bring opportunities that the careful work alone would not, and the opportunities are where the final category of deed lives, the one that exceeds even the Thyan engagements and the Lodge's most demanding assignments. Dragon slaying in the Forgotten Realms is not a single event. It is the consequence of being the kind of warrior who has handled every previous scale of problem that the world could present and not been broken by any of them, so that when something at that scale appears, the instinct and the capability are there because they were always there. The Snow Tiger Berserker who faces a dragon is not surprised by the scale of the problem. They are surprised, perhaps, by the specific configuration of it, but not by the existence of something that requires everything they have. That is what the Lodge prepared them for. Not a specific enemy, but a specific quality of situation, the one where everything insufficient about you becomes immediately lethal and only the real thing survives. When you return to Rashemen from the kind of deed that the wider world calls legendary, you return to a Lodge that already knows what you did because the Lodge has contacts everywhere it has ever sent members, and those contacts report. The senior Berserkers do not make a ceremony of welcoming you back. That is not the Snow Tiger style. What they do is adjust the type of assignments you are given, which is the Lodge's way of acknowledging that you have reached a level where the ordinary assignments are no longer the appropriate challenge. You are given students, eventually. Young Rashemi who have returned from the Degema and are being assessed for Snow Tiger membership and who are assigned to train alongside senior members as part of that assessment. You watch them the way the senior members watched you, looking for the specific combination that the Lodge requires, knowing from the inside exactly what you are looking for and how difficult it is to find. The cycle completes. Rashemen needs what it has always needed: warriors who can hold the line, direct the fury, and be trusted to do both when the Thyans come again. You are one of those warriors now, and you are also the person who produces the next generation of them, which is the deepest form of service the tradition knows. The tattoos on your skin record a career that would fill several chapters of a history written by someone who was not there. The Snow Tiger marks on your fangmates arms record careers that parallel yours, intersecting at the engagements that shaped you both. When you die, the marks will go with you to whatever Rashemen's dead go to, and the Lodge will add your name to the list that they recite at certain ceremonies, not as a memorial but as a roster of what the Snow Tiger Lodge is and what it can produce when the world requires it. Which is to say exactly this, exactly you. 3 roads, 1 truth. The Red Tiger Warrior, the Elk Tribesperson, the Snow Tiger Berserker. 3 traditions, 3 landscapes, 3 sets of specific demands. And yet the shape of the journey is recognizable across all 3, because the shape of the journey is not determined by the tradition. It is determined by what the rage requires and what the world provides. Every primal warrior in Faerun begins in a place that would destroy most people: the savage frontier, the glacial tundra of Icewind Dale, the cold eastern reaches of Rashemen. These are not merely backdrops for the formation of exceptional fighters. They are the first teachers, the ones who deliver the core curriculum before any human tradition adds its specific requirements. Cold and hunger and the permanent reality of things that want to kill you produce a particular quality of person, and that quality is the foundation on which everything else is built. Every primal warrior passes through a moment of formal recognition, a point at which the community acknowledges in some structured way that the person has crossed a threshold from promising prospect to genuine warrior. The rune hunt and the Telhoot for the Uthgardt, the first significant assignment for the Regedman, the Lodge assessment for the Rashemi. The specifics differ. The function is the same: a community acknowledging that one of its members has become what the community needs. Every primal warrior reaches a point at which the home territory is no longer sufficient to contain or develop the capability that has been built. The wider world calls in whatever form the wider world takes for that specific tradition, and the warrior who answers the call and returns changed but not destroyed has demonstrated the deepest quality that any primal tradition cultivates: the capacity to function not just in the conditions you were built for, but in conditions that are completely foreign to your formation. The Tundra Child in the Sword Coast City, the Silver March's Stalker in the dungeons beneath ruined towers, the Rashemi Berserker in the courts of nations that have no framework for understanding what they are looking at. The dragon, when it comes, is not a dragon. It is a category of problem, the one that exceeds anything the tradition explicitly prepared you for, that requires you to discover whether what the tradition actually prepared you for is larger than what it described. The Red Tiger's lineage chants are full of encounters with things that were not orcs, that were not the standard enemies of the standard rune hunt. The Elk Tribe's tradition of producing kings has produced people who face things on the tundra that no previous king had faced. The Snow Tiger Lodge's assignments have included enemies that the Lodge's founders could not have imagined when they established the Lodge's standards. The tradition does not prepare you for everything. The tradition prepares you for the quality of challenge that exceeds everything, which is different and considerably more useful. The specific dragon you face is less important than the specific quality of readiness you bring to it, which is the readiness built by every previous encounter, every previous moment when the thing in front of you required more than you had, and you found more than you thought you had and used it. The name is what comes after. The reputation, the stories that reach people who were not there. The songs, eventually, if the deeds are large enough. The lineage chant that the Red Tiger Shaman adds your verse to at the next rune meet. The mention in the council where the Elk Tribe's chieftains gather to choose a new king. The entry in the Snow Tiger Lodge's rolls of honor that the senior members recite at the ceremonies where new members are welcomed. Becoming a barbarian in Faerun is not a choice made once and then finished. It is a continuous becoming, a series of choices accumulating into a character, a way of relating to the world that the world eventually responds to by presenting the problems that only that character can solve. You are born into a tradition that makes specific demands, and you meet those demands one at a time over a career of increasing consequence. And at the end of that career, you are both exactly what the tradition produced and something larger than what the tradition expected. The rage is the beginning of this. It is not the end. The rage is the tool. What you build with it is the warrior. Begin with the cold, follow the reindeer or the lineage chant or the shaman's instruction. Survive the rune hunt. Come back from the Degema, hold the line at the Gorge of Gauros, carry the dead to the cairn rings and add their names to the recitation. Face the thing that should kill you and do not die. Repeat until legend. What you carry with you. There are things that every primal warrior from every tradition carries into the wider world that the wider world does not give adequate credit for, and understanding them is understanding why the scribes eventually reach for their quills. The first is landscape literacy. A warrior shaped by the savage frontier reads the world the way no one educated in a library can. The angle of a slope and what it means for retreat. The quality of silence before something that should be making noise stops making it. The specific way light falls on ground that has been walked recently versus ground that has not. These are skills developed over years of operating in terrain where being wrong is immediately fatal, and they translate directly to any environment that presents dangers, which is to say, every environment. In a dungeon, the Red Tiger warrior, who has spent a decade reading the ground for orc tracks, sees things in the stonework and the dust that the city-trained rogue does not see. In a political negotiation, the same warrior reads body language and ambient tension the way they read a forest for ambush indicators. The skills are not the same, but the faculty that produces them is, and the faculty is more developed in someone who learned to read landscape at the cost of their life than in someone who learned to read people in a comfortable setting with reversible consequences. The second thing you carry is the knowledge of what you are when you are pushed past the ordinary. Everyone in Faerun has a range of performance, what they do when things are manageable and what they do when they are not. Most people discover the bottom of their range at some point and find it uncomfortable and try to avoid the situations that reveal it. The primal warrior has discovered both ends of their range repeatedly and under conditions that tested whether the top end was real. They know that when the situation exceeds what calm competence can handle, something else is available, and they know this from experience, not from belief. This knowledge changes how you move through the world. A warrior who knows experientially that they have a second capability beyond the ordinary one is not reckless about triggering it, because the traditions are clear that the fury is a resource to be deployed rather than an indulgence to be enjoyed. But they are also not afraid of the situations that would require it, in the way that people who do not know what lives in them tend to be afraid. The fear of extreme situations assumes that you are only your ordinary self. The primal warrior knows this is not true. The third thing is the ancestor weight. This applies most explicitly to the Uthgardt tradition, but versions of it exist in all three. The Uthgardt warrior carries the lineage chants, which are a compressed record of every warrior in the line who faced the problems that the current warrior now faces. The Regedman king knows the names of the previous kings and what they were remembered for. The Snow Tiger Berserkers' tattoos record a personal history that the Lodge treats as part of its institutional memory. This is not nostalgia, it is a practical resource. The accumulated experience of every predecessor compressed into story form and available as orientation when the current situation resembles something the tradition has encountered before. The outsider who looks at an Uthgardt warrior reciting a lineage chant sees religious ritual. The Uthgardt warrior is doing something more functional, accessing a database of solved problems in the format their tradition developed for efficient storage and retrieval. The specific ancestor whose deeds are being recalled in a given moment is the ancestor whose situation most closely resembles the current one, and the recitation is a way of holding that comparison in mind while making decisions. It is not magic. It is applied history. What this means in practical terms is that the primal warrior in any strange situation has more context for it than their personal experience would suggest. They have never been in a city dungeon before, but the tradition has. They have never faced a necromancer's undead army before. But the Snow Tiger Lodge has fought alongside the Witchlaren against Thyan undead for generations, and the Berserker who paid attention during the training years carries versions of that experience even without having fought that specific enemy themselves. The tradition is a form of extended cognition, a community memory that supplements individual experience. The fourth thing, and perhaps the hardest to describe to anyone outside these traditions, is the specific relationship with the concept of enough. The tundra, the savage frontier, the eastern reaches of Rashemen, all of these places have a natural scarcity that shapes how their people relate to sufficiency. Having enough food for the current season is a genuine achievement. Having a weapon that works is a genuine treasure. Having companions who can be trusted is a profound luxury, because trust is not freely available in environments where deception has immediate lethal consequences and loyalty has to be demonstrated rather than assumed. When a red tiger warrior or an elk tribesperson or a snow tiger berserker enters the wider world and encounters its relative abundance, they do not become greedy. They become selective. The trader who tries to impress them with the quantity of what they are offering discovers that quantity is not the relevant variable. The relevant variable is quality, reliability, whether the thing on offer actually does what it needs to do under conditions that matter. The primal warrior's evaluation criteria are different from the city dweller's evaluation criteria, and this makes them difficult to manipulate through the usual mechanisms of status and display. This makes them simultaneously less useful and more trustworthy than the city-bred adventurer in certain situations. Less useful in the sense that they cannot be bought with gold and prestige, which limits the range of motivations that can be applied to them. More trustworthy in the sense that they do what they say they will do, because in the traditions that shaped them, saying you will do something and then not doing it has consequences that the city tends not to impose, but the tundra always does. All of this comes with you. The landscape reading, the knowledge of your own capacity, the ancestor weight, the relationship with enough. These are the invisible equipment of the primal warrior, the things that do not appear on any list of weapons and armor, but that shape every decision and every outcome. They are the reason that the scribes eventually reach for their quills. Not because the dragon was slain, because the warrior who slew it carried all of this into the encounter, and the encounter required all of it. And the combination of what the dragon brought and what the warrior brought produced something that the scribes need a lot of words to capture. You begin with the cold, with the sound of reindeer or the smell of wood smoke, with a shaman watching you and a tradition waiting for you and a landscape that is already teaching you everything it knows about survival without asking your permission. The legend is the last thing. It is built from everything that came before. And it is recognizable as belonging to a specific person, a specific tradition, a specific corner of a world that has many corners. The Red Tiger Warrior's legend looks different from the Elk Tribesperson's legend, which looks different from the Snow Tiger Berserker's legend. Different landscapes, different milestones, different forms of recognition. The same fury, the same willingness, the same understanding arrived at through different routes that the world is dangerous, and that someone needs to be the thing that is more dangerous than what threatens it. That someone is you. That has always been you. The tradition simply gave it a name and a direction and a set of tests by which the naming and the direction could be verified. The fire does the rest. The milestones, named. For those who think in the language of progression rather than the language of story, the stages of a primal warrior's journey across all three traditions can be named directly, even though the traditions themselves name them differently or do not name them at all. The first stage is formation. This is childhood in the tradition, which in a primal warrior context is not passive. You are being actively shaped by landscape, community, and the constant low-level instruction of living in a place that does not accommodate incompetence. You learn the language of your world, Bothi for the Uthgardt, Regedjik for the Elk tribe, the Rashemi tongue for the Berserker lodge members, and with the language you learn the worldview it encodes. This stage ends when the tradition formally or informally acknowledges that you have absorbed enough to be tested. The second stage is the proving test, the rune hunt. The first significant assignment, the lodge assessment following the Dajema. Whatever form it takes, this is the tradition saying, we have invested in you, and now we find out whether that investment produced what we needed. This test involves genuine danger and genuine consequence. It is not symbolic. Passing it makes you a warrior in the tradition's full sense. Failing it removes you from the progression, either through death or through the recognition that you are not what the tradition requires. The third stage is the building of local reputation. You are now a warrior in full standing, and you spend years demonstrating what that means through the accumulation of performance in the situations the tradition provides. Raids, hunts, defensive actions. Internal disputes settled through the right kind of force. You are becoming known within the community that can evaluate what you do, and that community's evaluation is the foundation of everything that follows. The fourth stage is the individual deed of significance. This is the moment that distinguishes you from the other warriors in full standing, not by performance across many occasions, but by a single outcome that the community remembers specifically. A giant, a wyvern, a Thyan summoner, a rival king in single combat. Whatever the specific deed, it has the quality of having required something that was not ordinary, and of having produced an outcome that the community needed and would not have had without you. The fifth stage is the departure. The warrior who has reached individual significance within the home tradition is ready for the wider world, and the wider world is ready for them. The specific mechanism differs. The Uthgardt tradition encourages ranging as a form of service. The Regedman tradition sends warriors south when the problems they face cannot be resolved by the tribe alone. The Snow Tiger Lodge dispatches members on assignments that take them beyond Rashemen's borders. But the departure is the same stage in all three. The moment the home tradition is no longer the whole of the available world. The sixth stage is the building of external reputation. Operating in the wider world is different from operating in the tradition. The people you encounter do not have the context to evaluate you on the tradition's terms, which means you have to establish yourself from nothing in each new context. This is uncomfortable and also clarifying because the things that survive the translation, the things that read as exceptional even to people who have no framework for understanding where they come from, are the most essential things. External reputation is built faster than internal reputation because the external audience has no baseline for comparison, and a warrior who is exceptional by the tradition's standards is extraordinary by the outside world's standards. The seventh stage is the mythic encounter, the dragon or its equivalent, the problem at a scale that exceeds all previous problems and that requires everything the 6 preceding stages built. This encounter is not won by the warrior alone in most cases. It is won by the warrior plus companions who have their own accumulated capabilities, confronting a threat that each of them alone would not survive. The primal warrior's specific contribution is the quality of commitment to the encounter, the willingness to enter the fury completely when the situation requires it, and the discipline to direct that fury toward the outcome rather than simply releasing it. The tradition prepared this. The encounter calls on it. The 8th stage is the return. Not necessarily to the tribe or the lodge, though that is one form it takes. The return is the moment the reputation closes the loop, reaching back the tradition that produced the warrior in a form the tradition can incorporate. The Red Tiger lineage chant gains a new verse. The Elk Tribe's council speaks a name. The Snow Tiger Lodge enters a record. The tradition acknowledges that what it produced is part of what defines it now, that the warrior's deeds have become part of the evidence the tradition offers for its own value. This is where legend lives, not in the deed itself, which happened and is finished, in the recitation of the deed, which continues as long as there is a tradition to recite it. You do not have to be buried in the cairn ring for the recitation to begin. You only have to have done something worth reciting. The Red Tiger Shaman, the Snow Tiger Lodge's senior members, the Elk Tribe's memory keepers, they know what is worth reciting. They have been watching you for this since before the rune hunt. All of it has been building toward the verse that your tradition will carry forward when you are gone. That verse is not separate from you. It is the most essential record of what you were. Make it worth the telling.